Alright, so we're back now with Ironman training log number, I don't know what number. So we're back now with Ironman training log number 14. It's basically been 3 weeks now since Ironman Australia, or actually 4 weeks today, but I haven't done a training log over the 3 weeks since Ironman Australia until this week. Basically for those 3 weeks, I sort of took it pretty easy and slowly worked my way back into some training. If we were to sort of break it down, like the day after Ironman, I had set myself a goal of eating the worst possible diet known to man, which I achieved.
Milk duds and Swedish fish, gummy bears and licorice. If you got a Kit Kat, I would like a taste of that. The doctor says I got diabetes.
But then for the full week after Ironman, basically there was no training whatsoever. I think my first day back exercising was like Thursday. I got on a bike and went for a ride, but that wasn't a training ride or anything like that. It was just for fun. So yeah, it took me probably 2 days, Monday and Tuesday after Ironman. I was really sore and couldn't really walk properly, So Wednesday I was walking fine. Thursday I went for a nice easy spin. I think the only other workout or bit of exercise I did that week was like a Saturday I went for like a 1K easy swim. But yeah, pretty much took an entire week off after Ironman, and then the second week back we introduced some light training, so sort of 1 hour a day of either swim, bike or run. Nothing with intensity, all just easy volume. And then the second week after that, so for the third week after Ironman, we sort of bumped up the volume a little bit, but still some small intensity. So, just easy sessions, 1 hour runs, maybe with a couple small efforts in there, or, some pretty cruisy bike sessions with some few small efforts around FTP, but nothing too serious. But then this week now, after we took the 3 weeks easy, this is the first week we've got back into some somewhat serious training. So we're actually right now, as I record this, 16 weeks out from Ironman's 70.3 Sunshine Coast, which I've signed up for. So that's sort of the next goal I've got. That's the next thing I'll be training for. So I suppose we've got 16 weeks of training logs now, moving into my first Ironman 70.3. So Ironman Australia is all wrapped up. I've signed up for next year, so we'll be doing that one again, but that prep's all said and done for, and now it's time to focus on a few of the areas we identified for improvement with our Ironman, and sort of use this Ironman 70.3 as, it's going to be a B race. I mean, Ironman Australia next year, that is my A race. But I think this one will, give me a lot of lessons and things I can take away from it by doing a 70.3 and focus on getting a bit faster and still get some good race experience. So yeah, I mean, coming off the back of Ironman Australia, 10 hours and 22 minutes, I'm happy with the time, really proud of the time, but I'm also, hungry for more, because I know that there's a lot of room for improvement on that. And then if I can put in 12 months of really consistent training, I'm hoping to put in a really good time. I mean, my goal now, after having a chat with my coach, is it's going to be to get a Kona qualification this time in 12 months. For my age group, you've got to basically win it at Port Macquarie. There's only one slot available. The guy that won it went like 40 minutes faster than me, so I think that's a great target. If I can try and drop 40 minutes off that time over the next 12 months. Obviously, you never know who's going to show up on race day. Some young, fast guy could just show up and blow us out of the water, but I'm really looking forward to training hard with a good specific goal in mind, rather than just sort of finish the Ironman and try and do well. Having a goal like, qualify for Kona, it's not so much about qualifying for Kona, it's more like, it's going to be a lot of fun to train for it. So looking forward to that over the next 12 months. But right now, focus is on Ironman 70.3 Sunshine Coast. So obviously with this training, we're going from specific Ironman prep, and we're going to change it up a bit now. So there's going to be a lot more intensity in the sessions, somewhat less volume, but obviously because of more intensity, we can't manage as much volume. That will ramp up though progressively as we go along. So I think with this prep now towards the 70.3, it's going to be a somewhat more entertaining because it's going to be a lot more focused on direct numbers and speed improvement. When I was sort of training for Ironman Australia, it was a lot of, okay, this is my first Ironman, I just need to be prepared to tackle the distance and try and finish it. Whereas now we can work on a lot more specific. So I can try and improve times in the pool, power on the bike, speed on the run. There's going to be a lot more measurable things I'm hoping to improve in the lead up to Ironman 70.3. So that's going to be quite interesting just from a training log perspective, because it's going to be a lot more data and a lot more insights I'm going to be able to share, and technique tips and things like that that are going to try and save me some time. So what are going to be the key areas to focus? Essentially in the swim, I'm looking at getting comfortable for swimming longer, because I think that held me back in Ironman Australia. So our average swims now, they're going to go from 3 to 3.5 kilometers, and we're going to take those up to 4.5 kilometers. Now, yes, a 70.3 is only a 2 kilometer swim, but Ironman Australia next year is still my A race, so I do want to be preparing for that specifically, and I think increasing the volume in the pool is going to prepare me for that, and a technique focus is going to essentially make me more efficient in the water. And I'm just hoping to swim this 70.3 comfortable. I want to get out of that water after a 2K swim and feel fresh and ready to get on the bike, because that is not how I felt in Ironman Australia. So as far as the run, obviously in my run for Ironman Australia, I felt strong more or less the whole way through. I didn't really fade off. I didn't have any issues, not too much pain towards the end. My pace did fade a little bit, but not significantly. We went from like 4:45 per kilometer up to high 4s to about 5 minutes per kilometer in the last like 10K, which isn't dramatic. I was still able to run the whole way, didn't have to stop and walk at any stage. So my run's strong, but I want to work on that top end. So I want to get faster in the run. So obviously to do that, we're going to change up the training a bit, where we're going to incorporate some more interval sessions. So actually working on a track, we're going to do some threshold sessions to really work on that top end. So rather than 1 hour at an easy moderate pace, it's going to be 1 hour a bit more, with some tempo work in it. And then the long runs, we're going to shorten those down to around 2 hours, and I'm just going to run faster. So essentially, yeah, we're just trying to increase our speed on the run. But then the bike really is going to be my main focus. I think that is what held me back the most in the Ironman I've just done. So focus on that is going to be getting comfortable out on the road in the TT position. That's the main thing I want to work on, because that's what held me back the most, I found, on the bike, was actually holding that strict aero position, especially on a road like Port Macquarie where it is so bumpy. I find it can be quite challenging to hold a strict position the entire time. And then obviously on the bike, I want to get quite stronger. So I want to be able to push more power on the bike. Obviously everyone wants to be able to do that, but particularly for a 70.3, I think that's going to be the perfect way to practice for that, specifically training for power on the bike. And that's pretty much it. So those are the key areas of focus. Really, I'm doing the 70.3 to get faster, and I just love racing. I mean, if money wasn't an issue, I would do every race on the calendar. So unfortunately Ironmans aren't cheap and I can't do every single one, but I think 70.3 up in Sunshine Coast is going to be a really good way to sort of break up the season, and then I might look to do some more fun races towards the end of the year. But this gives us a bit of direction to train towards now, and some really good ways where we can mark out some measurable improvements. Now, with all that being said, so that's what we're training towards. Let's have a look at this week of training. So first sort of week back, we did 16 hours was our total volume. So it's less than what we were doing for Ironman, but there's a lot more intensity in this week. So it sort of still balances out, I find, on how hard a week it is. If I was to break it down, we essentially swam 13 kilometers in the pool. We rode 209 kilometers, and then we ran 57 kilometers. So again, a bit shorter, but we broke that down as 3 swims, 4 rides, and 5 runs. So of those swims, a lot of short intervals, but a much more heavy technique focus now than what we did in the previous training log. So really trying to drill good technique at the moment. I did hear in a podcast recently, just a bit of an aside, that someone said if you're not swimming below 130s per 100, you shouldn't do any intervals, you should just focus on technique. And that really got me thinking, like, that's quite an interesting thing to say, because I'm not swimming below 130s per 100. So it sort of made me aware that I really need to be working on technique more. To try and enhance that efficiency. But yeah, that's it for the swims. And then on the bike, a lot of, we did some trainer sessions, but I also wanted to get out on the road. So a lot of top end VO2 work, some 1 minute all outs, but then obviously we just kept our long ride. And then finally on the run, we just had a few interval sessions, some easy runs, but then that long run, as I said, we shortened that back to 2 hours. So that's sort of the overview, and let's have a look at some specific sessions now. So starting out on Monday morning, as we always do, about a 4.5 kilometer swim. So this week, yeah, 4.5 kilometers, which consisted of the main set being 6x300 and 5x200. So you can see somewhat longer intervals than what we were doing before, because I do want to get more accustomed to swimming longer. The paces for that were all right, low 140s, or mid to low 140s, which isn't too bad for me really, especially considering they were 300s and 200s. And then Monday afternoon, typical Monday easy spin. So I just did 60 minutes. I just selected like an optional workout on Strava, which kept our average power at 200 watts. It did change around a bit, but averaged out as a pretty aerobic ride with average heart rate at 151 beats per minute. So Tuesday now, we just had a strength session in the morning. So this one focused on like leg strength and core really. So I threw in things like goblet squats, barbell squats, Romanian deadlifts, but then a lot of things like Russian twists and planks and things like that to work on core. So a leg strength and a core workout there. And then Tuesday afternoon, we had our first track session. So I jumped in as a run group in Newcastle. So this was the first session I've done with them. Some pretty good runners, much better runners than me. So it's good to run with people that are, you know, really pushing the pace on me. Essentially, that whole workout was a 20-minute warm-up, and then it was 2 rounds of a mile and 2x800. So it's a mile, 2x800, a mile, 2x800, and then a 20-minute cool down. So paces for that one, on those miles and 800 meter reps, we were doing between sort of 330 and 345 per kilometer pace. So that's really, it's faster than I've ran at all in the training log series. I hadn't really gone to that sort of speed at all because we weren't necessarily working on that for Ironman, but now that it's 70.3 prep, we can go a bit faster. And that's what we did, yeah. So 330s to 345s per kilometer. I'll put the splits up so you can see them, but it was around that. And overall, it ends up being a roughly 14 to 15 kilometer session. I didn't quite capture it all on the watch. I accidentally stopped it, but yeah, roughly 14 to 15 kilometers of running total. And between the miles and the 800s, we took 90 seconds of rest. So just stand there and walk around for 90 seconds. But that's it for Tuesday. If we jump to Wednesday now, we started out with another 4.2 kilometer swim. So we do the warm up. I tend to do a lot of drills in the warm ups, but then the main set for this one was 30 by 100. And for those, we kept that at around low 140s, high 130s. So slowly but surely, we are dropping some time in the pool. Like if we were to go back 6 to 10 weeks now, that's a great session for me to go low 140s over 30 by 100. So yeah, slowly but surely we are still somewhat improving in the pool, and hopefully we can continue to improve that, especially now as I switch to more of a technique focus and doing some more longer endurance stuff. So we'll see how those times progress over the next few weeks and few months. And then Wednesday afternoon, we just had a threshold bike session. So a bit of a complicated one where we basically do 20 minutes of cruisy riding, and then it's 2 rounds of 20 by 10 seconds at 390 watts with 20 seconds recovery between each. But then on either side of that, we would do like 5 minutes of, sweet spot. So that's 250 watts for me. So it's like 250, 20 by 10 seconds of, VO2 max stuff, 250, and then repeat that. So all in all, it's about an 80-minute ride, and average power doesn't really matter too much, but it was around 200 watts. But yeah, a lot of high-end stuff and then some sharp recoveries. So really working on that VO2 max. That takes us to Thursday morning. So it's actually only about 12 hours after Wednesday night's threshold ride. We had another threshold ride on Thursday, and the main set for that one really was 5 by 1 minute at like 400-ish watts. It's basically 5 by 1 minute of just anaerobic. So I just did 5 hill repeats for that and just went all out for a minute essentially on this hill. There was 2 by 20 minutes at like 170, 175-ish watts. So I just did that as specific TT practice. And that's the main reason I went out on the road to do this one rather than doing it on the trainer, is because I saw an opportunity to really focus on that TT work, which is a weakness of mine that we're trying to improve. But yeah, overall for that one, of those 5 by 1 minutes, we kept it around 400 watts. I'll put the splits up, but yeah, it's like 424, 439, 450, 376, 320. So faded a bit towards the end. My legs were getting pretty tired, I guess, or full of lactic acid really after those hill reps. But yeah, not a bad session. It's going to make us quite a bit stronger on the bike. Let's jump to Friday now. So Friday morning, 4.2 kilometer swim, a much more technique focused one where we're really trying to focus on breathing on both sides on this one. So a lot of, breathing on 3s and 5s, or just specifically on my left. I'm very much a breathe to the right side. Just naturally, that's the side I breathe to, and I very rarely breathe to the left. So this session here, we focused specifically on trying to get myself comfortable with breathing to the left. I don't think it's necessary in Ironman to breathe bilaterally. I think you can get away, or at least I got away with breathing to one side, but it's a good skill to have, and it helps me sort of stabilize in the pool too. I think it stops me from getting a rock, because I'm really aware of how much I rock on my left, and I think, okay, well, I'm probably rocking a lot on my right, and I'm just not, I've become accustomed to that feeling. So when I'm aware of it on my left, it makes me more cognizant of it, and hopefully I can reduce it on both sides, essentially, when I swim. Breathing set, yeah, a lot of 100s, 200s, 12 by 50 or 500s, so just a standard set, but really focusing on breathing. And then Friday afternoon, we just had a 60-minute moderate run. Now, as always, I like to throw in plenty of hills on this, so a couple hill repeats, but overall we averaged 5:07 per kilometre. So it took us to an 11.7 kilometre run. I ran that one just along the Newcastle beach, and average heart rate 147. So pretty good run, nothing too interesting there. But then Saturday morning, we just had our long ride. Before the long ride though, I just did a quick 5K social run just with some friends around the beach. It's actually a 5K of hill repeats. I've done it a few times before, but it's a good social run, and then straight from there, I went out into the long ride. So really cool for the long ride. I found an abandoned coal terminal. It's actually not abandoned, it was just really quiet coal terminal. So really wide open roads, really smooth and dead flat and no cars. So it's kind of like cyclist heaven out there. But I just did 3 hours on that loop essentially. And the best thing about that is I didn't need to get out of aero once. So really drilling that TT position there. There's no need to get out of the bars, stop for traffic, nothing. There's not even any hills to break it up. So perfect for what I'm trying to work on, which is specific TT work. I mean, the only bad thing about it is also the best thing about it, and that is that the road is dead flat. So not quite specific to Port Macquarie Ironman Australia roads, but it is still really good to just hone in on that position. So over that ride, it was essentially a moderate ride, but I did try and push it a bit. So average power was 186-ish watts. 3 hours, and we went 32.3 kilometers as our average speed, so it was a 97 kilometer ride. All in all, pretty good. And then interesting, I did one Powerade at the 2 hour mark. So I am still on this whole bandwagon of somewhat reducing my nutrition during sessions, just to try and make myself burn fuel more efficiently. I'm not a scientist, it just makes sense in my head. Anyway, that's what we're going for. And then Saturday afternoons, after those sessions, I just did a quick strength session again. We're still focused on some leg strength, but we also threw in a bit more of like a plyometric stability balance specific exercises. So there was things like single leg squats, single leg glute bridges, hip hikes, Russian twists, landmine 180s. These are things I had to Google myself, so I'm just going to put up the videos of me doing them so you can actually see what they are. But yeah, a nice specific, core stabilizing balancing session. It's kind of like we're doing injury rehab before we get an injury to prevent ourselves from getting an injury. And then Sunday now, so final session of the week, typical Sunday long run. We just did 20K, or it was 21K long run. I did that one with the same run group I did the track session with on Tuesday night, so it was fun to run with the group again. We just went out at about 5 minutes per kilometer, got it down a little bit towards 450 per kilometer, but then we had a really strong finish. So one guy just went out with about 3K to go. He just took off out the front, and I thought, oh, sweet, that's a great opportunity for me to work on some of this top end stuff I'm talking about. So we ended up bringing it home at like low 4 minutes per kilometer for the last 3K. That actually felt quite comfortable. So I think there's a lot of fitness in me from doing those long base miles, so it's going to be interesting. I might actually sign up for, from a week from today, there's a local half marathon on. Might just do that as a bit of a training race and see how fast we can go. So obviously if I do that, that'll be next week's training log, so you'll hear about it. But yeah, that wraps it up for the week. So overall, 21K, average heart rate 150 beats per minute, so pretty cruisy, and our average pace over the whole run was 4:47 per kilometer. Again, a few hills on that one, but nothing crazy. But yeah, that's it for this week. So that's it for this sort of our first training log in the lead up to Sunshine Coast 70.3. I think this training log is going to be a lot better than the last one. I will, you know, sort of prioritize trying to film a bit more. I won't be as serious about hitting the sessions and putting the camera away. So I'll try and get some more content, but more specifically than that, there's going to be some good data numbers as far as working on power on the bike, speed on the run, and speed in the pool. I think that's going to be quite interesting, and hopefully there'll be some more insights into training that I can share that are a bit more measurable and, yeah, somewhat entertaining for a training log series. So yeah, that's it. I'll see everyone in the next one. That's it.